Well, hello and welcome back, everyone, to our coverage of the UN General Assembly. We're right here in New York City. Pretty strange feeling to be somewhat back, but we are back, and delighted to have so many of you with us who've been following our coverage that spans across sectors, climate and health and energy and ag. And there's so much to cover at a UN General Assembly. We've been coming to this event for many years, covering at Devex for many years, and I must say, every year the connection between the Sustainable Development Goals and what you hear in the foreign policy, geopolitics, diplomatic stages are coming closer and closer together. We're covering all that for you. We have some fantastic reporters who are here with me in New York City and attending events as much as they are happening in person, and doing what we can to bring this story to all of you. So thank you for being a part of this, those of you who are joining us now for the second day. And I want to welcome, as we start our coverage today, my colleague, Adva Saldinger. Adva is a senior reporter at Devex. You cover all things finance related, and you're the author of Devex Invested.
Hi, Raj.
Hi. How is UN General Assembly in this somewhat strange year going for you so far?
I mean, you say somewhat strange year, and that's right. It's a very different year. Our access is different. There's a lot less that's in person. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of a juggling of running between meetings and still doing some calls on the phone or tuning into some virtual events and trying to work with other colleagues who aren't here to support us and covering the virtual events to make sure we're really bringing the full picture. And obviously we're also testing every day. Yeah. So it's definitely a very different experience, still good to be in New York. It's quieter than most years, not quite as hectic.
That's right. There still are some traffic jams for those who are used to coming here during this time, but it's not what it used to be. What are some of the big things you're looking at that you're paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I write Devex Invested, I cover finance, and so I'm always really interested in the conversations around finance and around what the private sector capital is doing and sort of what some of those companies are talking about this week at UNGA. And there was a big report out at a UN Global Compact event on Monday around CFOs and these CFO principles that they're building and sort of the role of chief financial operators in looking at the SDGs and really aligning companies. So that's one thing that's quite interesting. And obviously today we're going to be closely following, US President Joe Biden's COVID summit. Right. It is actually closed. It's a pretty small event from what we understand, but we're going to do our best to bring you inside.
Yes, a lot of that is coming out. It is a closed event, but we've been getting some good access to this information. And it's an important moment because the world is so far behind on vaccine rollout, really pathetically behind in most of the world. And everyone is looking forward to not only some big high-level commitments, but we will look into the details to see what's really going to happen.
I did an interview yesterday under embargo about an announcement related to vaccines, and that story will be online later today.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let me mention, because we're about to kick off our coverage here, let me just mention some thanks to the organizations that make all of this coverage possible every year when we come up here to UN General Assembly. We've got this year AstraZeneca, Bayer, IFAD, MSD for Mothers, Novartis, and the Novartis Foundation, Save the Children, and Smile Train, all as innovation partners supporting our coverage. And we have an underwriter, which is Rabobank. And I just want to thank all of them, both for the financial support and the expertise and some of the ecosystem events that we partner on. You see on the sidelines of our main news coverage here. It's great to have them as partners. I thank them and welcome them who are joining us from all over the world too. I want to mention to all of you who are on the Zoom, the chat is open and we want to hear from you. So please give us your comments, your thoughts, your questions. Our moderators in these events are checking out those chat boxes. Please be a part of the conversation. If you're joining us on Zoom as well, we have Spanish and French translation. So take advantage of that if you'd like. And maybe we can just talk a little bit what we have coming up today. We've got some conversations about the role of the UN in the whole decolonizing aid movement. And we want to dig into that a little bit. We are covering, as we always do, universal healthcare. And we have the UHC Pavilion, as we call it. It's back again this year. We're digging into health tech, health equity, nutrition, safeguarding sexual and reproductive rights in conflict areas. A lot going on today. You're going to want to stay tuned for the next few hours and beyond. But first, we've got a really interesting conversation that you've had with the UN Development Chief, Achim Steiner, the head of the UNDP. Want to just kick us off before we join that?
Yeah, I had a great conversation with him earlier this week, sort of about what to expect. UNDP is just sort of announced its new strategy for the years ahead and sort of adapting to the times around COVID. And like many of these conversations, we didn't have time to get to everything. So we sort of scratched the surface and there's a lot more that they're going to be working on. But one of the things we focused on is energy. It's a priority for UNDP in the year ahead. And part of the reason we did that is because on Friday, there's a high-level meeting on energy. And from my understanding, there hasn't been one in some 45 years at the UN. So it's a pretty momentous moment, especially as we gear up for COP26 in November.
Wow. Well, we're looking forward to seeing that.
Absolutely. And now we're going to go to that conversation with Achim Steiner.